Welcome to Interviewing People, where we will talk to a variety of people on how they ended up where they are today, what they learned from their mistakes, and what advice they have for our futures. Enjoy the show. All right, well, welcome. Today we are going to be talking with Thomas Piccirillo, who is a VanBuren graduate and a current student at Mount Union University. The University of Mount Union. I think they've changed that since I last had looked at that. And he's going to be talking to us today a little bit about his experience running a business while he was in high school and building that from the ground up and what that looked like and what that has allowed him to do today and what he's learned from that and so forth. So Thomas, I guess the first question is just tell us a little bit about your experience when you were at VanBuren and what currently is going on in your life at Mount Union.
All right, so I graduated in 2019 and I played soccer and football, and then I came to Mount last fall. I decided to kick footballs here instead of play soccer and everything, just because a little less on the body to do that rather than running and keeping myself in shape like that. I also enjoyed kicking more because, like, from a recruiting standpoint, it's more of regional-based recruiting, where with college soccer, it's more like you could get kids from all around, like the nation even, just going anywhere. So football was something that I enjoyed, and I stuck to that.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about how you started with Pics Custom Kicks. Where did that idea even come from originally?
So I personally enjoyed footwear and stuff like that, but like I was too young to obviously work and like have a job, with me being like 15, 16 years old, and with football and soccer going on, I didn't really have time to work either. So like my only way of really making any money for anything would be like creating my own company. And at the time, my sister actually created her own company when she was in high school. So I kind of used her as a little bit of inspiration when it came to that. And like, I figured, I might as well, have a business that revolved around something I enjoy doing with footwear. So cleaning and customizing shoes was kind of the right choice for me.
So did the business start out more as the customizing, or was it more about the cleaning, or I guess where did it start and where did it end up?
So actually it wasn't even meant for cleaning shoes originally. It was more of just customizing shoes, and that was really the only thing I'd be doing. And I had a couple of my buddies from like club soccer. They had some shoes that originally started with cleaning, I guess, but I had cleaned their cleats, and my parents were like, well, you should charge them for it, because you did a good job and everything. So I thought about it, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to charge them or anything. Then I kind of continued thinking about it. I said, we probably could do something here with this. So they ended up asking me if I could customize a pair of shoes for them. And he actually plays basketball at Ohio Dominican right now. And he was my first custom I ever did. And then I did a couple more guys. I had a dude that plays soccer at Duquesne right now, and then another guy that I was friends with that I think he goes to BG now. So it started with customs, and then as I realized that my target audience wasn't really they didn't really have the money to be customizing a pair of shoes, so $5 shoe cleanings were kind of more of their budget area.
It's interesting you bring up target audience, because that's something we've been talking about with building our brands. Are we reaching the people that we want to reach? So I think it's interesting for you to say that your initial target audience isn't really what you ended up, or didn't really end up as your final audience, that adapted a little bit as you learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as we think about getting started with that, what were your parents involved with that at all? Or was, you said you took a little bit from your sister. I guess, what did you learn from her that made you feel like you could jump into this and find success and so forth?
I think the whole starting off came a lot from her. I could just bounce ideas off of her and what worked for her and what didn't work for her, I guess, because she was in college when I started doing it. And I think she continued to do it a little bit, but she wasn't really doing much with it anymore. So I guess bouncing ideas off her really helped, and that was really the most she really did. But my parents really didn't do much. I wouldn't say it was like I started the business and like I just kept going. It was more of like I just kept building up. So I wasn't like, I don't know, it just progressively got larger and larger as it went on.
Did it really take much money to get started with this, or was it pretty much a bare bones jump into it?
It was a toothbrush and some old shampoo that started it. So it really wasn't anything I didn't have laying around.
Okay. All right. Good. I have a few students who have talked about being interested in starting businesses, and they've asked me questions about like, do I have to get a license for the business? And honestly, that's an answer, or it's a question I don't know the answer to, and I'm working on researching. But I guess I'm just wondering, did you ever have to deal with any of that, or how did that work?
All right. So I did not plan on getting big enough that I like felt like I had to. I kind of only expanded into the BVC, and that was really it. So I didn't get a license. I'm not sure if I really needed one or not, but for the most part, everything was under the table anyway. So like I wasn't really making enough money for it to really have a damper on the large scheme of things.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're definitely looking into that for some people, but yeah, wanted to know what your experience might have been with that. So when you think about your business, is that anything that you ever used as far as to make, did you tell colleges that you were looking at that you had this business? Did they look at you differently because of the initiative you were showing with this, or is this something that never really came up when you were talking to colleges?
All right. So ironically, my essay that I had to submit for Mount Union, I actually wrote that about Pics Custom Kicks and how like that taught me not only how to market my business, but it also taught me how to market myself. So ironically, the person that was reading my essay from the university, I had a class with him. He taught my first class that I ever had from the university, and he mentioned it on like one of the first days and everything. So I assume it helped a little bit. So I hope that answers your question there.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as you talked a little bit about marketing yourself, what role have you seen that play? Because that's something we're really talking about right now, is how can we start building our brands as high school students so that when we're to the point of applying for college, looking for jobs, et cetera, we have a base of content that we can show to those people and say, here's what we stand for, here's what we've done. How important has that been in your life, both in high school and going into college?
I think it just helps with like knowing who you are. You're not going to be fake about something, where like if you truly know who you are and what you enjoy doing and stuff like that, like it won't be, you don't have to fake it. Like, I don't know, I guess when it comes to marketing yourself, you can be honest with what you actually mean with like what you're doing when like applying for jobs even. Like you're not like trying to be who the job would want you to be. You can just be yourself.
I really like that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we're definitely going to be talking about that when we talk about this video. You talked a little bit about, or I don't know if you did or not, but we've also been talking about logos and branding and so forth. And we all know, all my students who are current sophomores, they all had heard of Pics Custom Kicks. They had seen the logo, so forth. How did you decide on that logo that you eventually came up with?
All right. So a lot of that was just like looking at brands that I really enjoyed their logos and stuff like that, and then just all tying them into like each other, and then going into Photoshop and just changing like the little things that I could make it more of my own business. There was a large amount of time that I really took into like logos and stuff like that, because I knew if I was going to be putting it on a bunch of apparel, I didn't want it to look bad. So I really spent a lot of time on making that look good and presentable, where I wouldn't have to worry about changing that every now and then.
So how did you decide to then get into the apparel? Was that encouragement from friends, or?
That was, again, from my club soccer team. They suggested that I should put stuff on like a t-shirt, my logo on a t-shirt. And I thought they were crazy at first. And then they're like, yeah, we would totally pay you for that. I said, I could make some money off of this. So then ironically, it expanded more to VanBuren than it did through club soccer. But like, even still, my sister also, she sold apparel too with her company. And my dad, with him coaching the girls soccer team, he had gotten stuff from this printer in Tiffin that I ended up using. So I learned a lot from him too, based off of how I could do that and make profits off of that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can remember days when there'd be half the class would have Pics Custom Kicks apparel on in class. And so, yeah, you definitely made an impact, or your brand made an impact in VanBuren. So thinking about money that you were able to make, were you able to use any of that to pay for tuition and things, or has that not really had a huge impact on your ability to pay for college? How was that all worked out?
Okay. In the long scheme of things, it really did not make that big of a difference. I made roughly $2,000 total.
Okay.
And I kept that in a savings account, and then I pretty much like spent 1,000 of that over time, and just like with food and clothes and stuff like that. And then the other 1,000, after I took an economics class my freshman year, and then after that class, I decided to invest 1,000 of that into the stock market.
Okay.
Just as like a way of like passive income, I guess you could say.
Right.
So I've got that in there right now. So to speak, going to college, not really. It's more of like spending money, I guess, if you were to look at it that way.
Right, right. And I don't know if you remember seeing on the list of questions I shared with you, someone did ask about investing, and yeah, I didn't know how we'd work that in, but you obviously worked that in here. How, I guess, thinking about your economics class, I guess, how important do you think that is, or what, like with your business, if you were to start another business, how important is it to invest in that business? How important is it to invest in other areas? So this is kind of going off script a little bit, but just thinking about your own thoughts about investing, because I do have some students who are interested in that.
I think it depends where you're putting your money. I think you should always make it so you've got 50-50 when it comes to profits. So like like if I'm making a t-shirt, for example, I'm going to spend $5 on printing the t-shirt and getting the t-shirt, and then I'm going to have the other 50%, which would be the other $5 in profit. So I always use that as a good tool to make sure I was still making money, and if something came up, I'd still be all right.
Okay. All right. Has owning the business, has that impacted your choice for a major in college? What is your major? So forth.
Right. So my major is, we call it sport business here at Mount Union, but essentially it's just sport management anywhere else. I actually, through Shadow Day, I shadowed the head equipment manager at Bowling Green State University for basketball. So I think that was a big thing that helped me. And then that kind of tied in with the whole shoes and apparel and stuff like that, with accessories and stuff like that. I always knew that I wanted to get into that after Shadow Day. So for one of my sport business classes, I actually had to interview somebody that like was in that industry. So I interviewed the head football equipment manager at Akron, and he also happened to be a kicker at Akron. So it kind of played in pretty well with like his schedule with football and everything, and how he transitioned to being able to get into that field. So that's kind of how that worked out.
Okay. So do you see yourself, let's say you go on and you go into sport management, you get, a job with the university or something like that. Do you ever see yourself having another business on the side, or do you think that was a high school thing to get you started? What role do you think that might have on your future, or what impact on your future?
I don't know if I would per se be cleaning shoes again, just because it was more of I got tired of doing it, and
right,
all the labor wouldn't really pay out for what I was getting paid for it. So I think I definitely would create another business. I think if it gets rolling along, it's really easy to just maintain what's going on rather than getting it up and started again. Getting it up and started is probably the hardest thing for me.
Okay. So looking back on that experience, if there was one thing that you would change about what you did to get your business started, what would that be?
I wish I would have expanded more to other schools and like the BVC, and had like a representative at each one of the schools that could have helped me like make my brand bigger, I guess you could say, at bigger schools other than just VanBuren. I had a few ambassadors at different schools, but for the most part, it wasn't really like making that big of a difference because most of them went to VanBuren anyway. So,
okay.
yeah, expanding my brand with different schools would have been big.
So that kind of relates to networking, which we've not really talked about a lot, but that's going to be one of the next things we talk about. How important do you see relationships being in developing something like this?
Okay, so with developing relationships, I kind of viewed it as like with cleaning shoes and apparel and stuff like that, I wanted to provide like a pyramid. So like I build the relationship with you, and then, you know, maybe you get a pair of shoes cleaned, and then maybe you get another pair of shoes cleaned, and then you work your way up that pyramid, and maybe you're going to buy a t-shirt now, to where after you buy a t-shirt, you're going to be buying more apparel and spreading the word to other people and just generating more sales for me in the long run.
What's the one thing that you would definitely do again? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I liked the apparel more than cleaning the shoes, and it became more about the apparel than actually cleaning the shoes, because I could talk to you for 10 minutes and convince you to buy a t-shirt, and I wouldn't have to do anything. So I think more apparel and more options with that would have been a good route too, if I would have done it again.
So with that apparel, I mean, did you have a lot of these things pre-made, so you had a lot of inventory, or did you basically order as people made orders, so you didn't have inventory sitting in your house?
So I created a Google form where like essentially it was an order form for me, so they could select, you know, what they wanted, what size, and then they'd have their name in there and like how they were going to pay. But like, I don't know, that's still, that was to limit the amount of inventory I had, but I still ended up having inventory from people that didn't like pay to get their stuff or something like that. So like I have probably 15, 20 small t-shirts back at home right now that I just don't know what I'm going to do. So
I'm sure there's some students at VanBuren that would take a donation. So
I'll have to look into that.
All right. Let's see if there's anything else. A lot of kids wondered, are you happy that you made the decision to focus on football in college as opposed to the business? Or is there any regret there?
I definitely am glad I'm playing football here. I think essentially I'd be starting the business from scratch if I were to bring it here, because all my target audience was at VanBuren and Finley anyway. So I'm not really close enough where I could still like go to Finley and pick up some shoes and clean them and sell apparel to people like that, just because I'm not there anymore. So
Right. Okay.
Also with the apparel, I guess I don't have my distributor here in Alliance either. So I would have to go back to Tiffin to grab apparel and all that, and then come back up here to get it to people. I definitely think I could do it again, but it's one of the things where it's like, it's just so much of a hassle with me, like right now with football and everything going on, that I just don't have time to.
Right. Okay. Well, anything else that you would love to share about your business, or any advice or any words of wisdom for VanBuren's current students?
I think that's about it. I wrote down some notes on some things just in case if it came up, but we kind of hit everything for the most part. So I think that's really it.
Okay. Well, Thomas, I greatly appreciate it, and look forward to sharing this with students and hearing what they have to say. And if they have any other questions, I'll probably shoot you a message on LinkedIn, and you can respond when it's convenient. And we will hopefully continue to learn from you and a lot of other people that I'm hoping to be interviewing. So, yeah. All right. With that, I appreciate it very much.